And here we are again with a new episode of Pensamiento Crítico, which today is actually critical thinking because I'm merging two podcasts that I had, Vantage Point in English and Pensamiento Crítico in Spanish, but it's the same exciting topics about creativity and critical thinking. And I'm super excited to have a guest today, Gayden Day. Hi, Gayden.
Hello.
Happy New Year. How are you? Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's great. I'm looking forward to 2025.
I know, super excited to have you here. Let me tell my audience, Gayden is one of my favorite people in the world and also one of the most creative people I know. And I have known you, Gayden, since 2010, something around that. And I want to talk a lot about what you're doing now, which is super exciting. And I want to talk a lot about your career because it's also, there's so much creativity in abundance that I would love to share some of the stories. Before we go to your career, what are you up to today? You're literally walking across the world.
I have been walking across the world. Some tragic events or some events that were pretty cataclysmic led me to that. But I've discovered that walking is a great healing tool and it's a great creativity tool. So since 2017, I've walked in over 12 countries and over 10,000 miles.
That's amazing. Doing the Camino, right?
Doing Caminos, but also other walks in Chile and Argentina and all over the world. So I've discovered that walking experience to meet other people, to open yourselves up to what the universe and what the world has to offer, what nature has to offer, has really done a lot of healing, but also opened up a lot of creativity and a lot of great experiences.
I know, and you were telling me before that you're actually you're in Dallas, and that's what we met, and you have been living, but you're moving to heaven.
I am. I am. It is called Casa de Cielo, which is a home in the sky or in the heavens in Santa Fe on top of a mountain. So I'm going to reach the mountaintop, it looks like.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so you it's so amazing because over the past, 3 years, you have been pretty much living in nature.
Yes.
Walking across Camino, which explain for the audience what Camino means.
Oh, 100%. Well, Camino itself means a path or a walk of life. And I first experienced the Camino Frances, which is walking from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to Santiago de Compostela, which is a 500-mile trek, which is finding and revering for a lot of Catholics in their religion. It's a spiritual pilgrimage to honor the remains of St. James, believed to be buried in Santiago. And I heard about this by happenstance, and it was a walk that called to me, actually before I closed my agency. It called to me, and my spirit said, this is a walk that you're going to do with me. And I was at a point in my life where I leaned in and listened and just went with it. I closed my agency, closed my accounts, bought a place downtown Dallas, and then left for a very long walk. And it was a great experience. And it really, I'd never hiked before in my life. I looked like an REI catalog when I showed up, but I had no idea how to find a trailhead, much less what a switchback was. In fact, if you had asked me, I would have thought it was a knife. I had no idea, but just leaned into it, and it was a transformational life experience.
Now, Gayden, I know you, and there are so many things that I want to say and ask and talk about, so I'm trying to organize my thought here, but I know you were working 80 hours per week as an owner, as an advertising agency, which we also have great stories to tell about that. And then you went from working 80 hours or more per day. You could write an entire website in half of a day. I mean, like, your creative capacity is like I have never seen. From going and walking, just walking in nature for a month?
Yeah, I was gone. Actually, my first walk, I was gone about 56 days because I ended up walking on Finisterre to where the earth and the sea meet, and you can walk no more. So I wanted to end there. And I think through that process of walking, it allowed the restoration process that I didn't know I needed. I was so tired.
How was that switch? The brain, like, for so many years, it used to thinking and doing and trying to figure out things just to, like, let go and relax and just walk. How was that?
Oh, it's wonderful. Just if you let your spirit just be there in nature, it's a very sensorial experience. So it's designed to heal us. And I believe that nature is designed for that. So it touches all of your senses. You think about the sights, the sounds, the smells, and it just invigorates you, actually. It restores you. And just your whole body experience. You look younger, you feel younger. And I think it allows you that space to have more creativity.
But did you never feel like a withdrawal phase where you...
It was so different to do that, to just be in that space. I think that's one thing that perhaps we don't do enough of is just like stop, breathe, be.
Yeah.
Just be.
I have a quote in my book that says that we spend too much time doing and too little time thinking. Just being. And like another quote that says, and this is pretty old, that we're not human doing, we're human beings.
Right, exactly. And I think about that same idea of what I experienced on the Camino is also kind of rediscovered the kindness of strangers and the kindness of others. And we're on this common path, which we are in the world. And we forget that we all share the same path. And how we came together from all different countries, all different backgrounds, and we're able to somehow connect in a very unique way, despite our business backgrounds or spiritual backgrounds, but we shared this path, and it was an incredible humankind experience. So that same thought of being a human being, that humankind experience, and like, you get addicted to that idea of this is what the world is really supposed to be like.
That's a great addiction to have.
Oh, it's a great addiction. You break bread with people that have such different lifestyles than you, and you realize that we're so much more alike than not.
And then after you have walked 10,000 miles,
yes.
And now, let's go back to your amazing house that you're going to move at the end of, in 2 months.
Yes, 2 months.
So you have describe it, because I was salivating, and I need to be there. I'm going to be the first one.
Well, it sits on top of a mountain in Santa Fe, overlooking about a 280-degree view of all the mountain ranges around Santa Fe. And it has a writer's cabin that's detached from the home itself, and it has also an artist studio that overlooks the mountains in the main house. It was designed originally as an artist residence and retreat for visiting artists in Santa Fe. It has a Japanese sunken tub. It's got a wonderful deck, but it's really designed to be in the midst of nature. And the architect actually designed nature as a part of the house. So there's rock and granite inside the home itself, and a water feature inside the home. So he really brought those natural elements into the home so that you're a part of the mountain.
That's amazing. And also that experience of moving there and living there, you're matching it with representing an artist that is not just any artist. It's a very, very special, because it has such much depth in the type of creativity they exercise. What do you were telling me you're so fascinated about that type of creativity?
Well, I think it's a new adventure for me in many ways. And I think that the encouraging thing is life doesn't stop at a certain age. You can't just jump into a new adventure at any time and have a new season. So this new season has introduced me also to this artist. He actually resides here in Dallas, but he's a doctor, physician by background. Well-being and wellness and health is his focus, but he's also an artist. And he and his wife, who's also a doctor, are these alchemists that actually work with copper and do these fabulous art pieces and abstract pieces, but they allow nature to really get involved in the process and watch as nature helps evolve the painting on the copper. And they let go of the painting at a certain point to let nature take over and sort of create the final product.
That's amazing, because you know that all the stories about creativity says that the best creative output happens when you let control. Let go and stop controlling. So this is literally they giving control to nature and nature doing its thing.
It's fascinating.
And making it so special. That's super exciting. And you just said something that strikes me very in a very relevant way, because I have been thinking about reinvention lately, and reinvention not as you completely being something that you have never been, but you say that we evolved.
Right.
I think that we have layers as human beings. We always have those layers, but we start peeling them and reinventing ourselves. And I think that's a creative process in its own. So what was your creative process to recreate yourself, let's say, in this new Gayden that we're seeing today? Because I'm saying all this, and maybe people don't know you, but you are like so different. The one that we're going to describe in the second part of this conversation. So how was that creative process for you to, it was a slow process, or it was a, how was it?
I do think it is a slow process, and I think once I jumped off the proverbial hamster wheel, I didn't know how tired I was. I didn't know how busy my mind was. So allowing your mind to rest and just heal and just letting go and letting be. And I think that's what sort of, it was okay not to have the next thing, just to let it come to me.
That is so hard.
It's hard, but after years of being on the hamster wheel or spinning all those plates, it was actually quite a respite. And I just was somehow able just to say, I'm just going to rest in this. I'm going to sit on a rock and just rest and look and absorb and just receive. You know, I think for women, and I don't want to, obviously, I'm partial to women in the roles that we carry, because a lot of times we multitask and carry so much, and we give out so much, but we don't take the time to replenish ourselves and restore ourselves. And I didn't realize how important that is, because you only have X amount, and continue to give your cup and give your cup and give your cup, but not take the time to replenish yourself. It does take its toll. So to have that time just to receive and give ourselves permission just to sit and receive, so that we can be our best selves and not feel that pressure or that stress.
So you see, that led to and I keep using the word reinvention. It may not be reinvention, like I will say recreation of.
Yeah, I think it's a shift.
It's a shift.
I think there's a sort of like a quantum physics things that kind of happened within me that was a shift, just in my focus and in my spirit, to say, it's okay, rest, just rest. And I didn't realize how much I needed that. But then to say, how do you leverage or look at all the things that have happened, and how do you begin to help others? Because I also believe you need to have a purpose. To be excited about getting up in the morning or go to the next thing. And my purpose became really just, how do I inspire other women who perhaps are widowed, who perhaps have lost their job, perhaps are divorced, or looking for something, some way to take a brave step by themselves. And that it just evolved over time when I started telling my story on my first Camino, that I'd never hiked before, and I carried my husband's ashes with me. That was my last walk with Andy. And people just resonated and were drawn and hailed me, as I guess my story also helped them. And I saw that and made such great connections, and realized that sharing your story is so important, because you don't know whom that might inspire or really speak to. So I began to speak that story through Facebook, and to share my pictures and share my stories, and began to connect with these women all over the world that are now walking Caminos.
That's amazing. And you have a way of writing that is so compelling and so charismatic. And now you have a writer's room.
I know.
That's exciting. No excuses. Yeah, no excuses. Are you going to gift the world with something?
Well, I think I am. I've always said that when the time comes, I think that we get a nod in our spirit. We get a prompt to know that when's the right time, so it's not forced. And I wrote for so many years, just, as you know, I will call it like almost vomiting copy, because it was what I did, right? From a creative perspective, is write and design. And I think I resented the computer for a while because I was on it so much, and I had to put it away, so now that I can bring it back. And I think blogging about my Camino walks and seeing that there was a reaction and response from that, sort of said, okay, you can do this again, and it's for a greater good. And if that helps someone or inspires someone or motivates them to take a step in a different direction, you don't have to walk around the world, but maybe it's just a different way to work. Maybe it's something different you do in your life that's brave, that's courageous for you. That makes a difference for me. So that's inspired me to sort of get back into the writing game.
Now, you had an amazing career in advertising, and we're going to talk about you work with clients like the George W. Bush Presidential Library for SMU, one of the top universities here in Texas. You work for Boeing, the aerospace manufacturer. You work for so many other GameStop,
Formula One.
Formula One. And that was, again, your mind works at 1,000 kilometers or miles per hour. And I have never met someone that can create things, material, ideas, like put creation in the world as fast as you do. How you rechannel that creative energy now that you're not doing that, and we're gonna get more into that, but what did you do with all, so that is the energy, I know you. Actually, I think that we share some of the same unstoppable energy. How you slow it down now to live your happy life?
I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's realizing that I can just sit, enjoy, and watch others and inspire others, but not necessarily have to be in the game at that level. It does take its toll, as we all know. It does take its toll. But I think that still you're creative in different ways. When I obviously serve on committees, volunteer, do other things, but really wanted the freedom to be able to pick up and disappear for 2 or 3 months in Europe, or disappear walking in another country. So I didn't want to get tied down, but use that creativity just to plan those trips, or investigate different worlds or different places I wanted to go. So I just channeled that energy in a different direction.
That's great to hear, because for me personally, it's like, okay, there's hope. Yes. You can leave the addiction. Do you think that you were addicted to work?
100%. 100%. And it's funny, because I remember when I told people, it was a very clear message for me. I was very blessed to have a clear message, because I don't think sometimes people know when's the right time. But my lease was up May 31st. My contracts with the city of San Antonio, city of Dallas, city of Fort Worth, Boeing, and some other clients were all up May 31st to renew. So all the timing, and I got a very specific prompt of shut it down. It's time.
That takes a lot of courage.
Well, I was at a point where I think we sometimes don't listen to our inner spirit, our voice, when we hear those little nods. And I got a very specific message of it's time. And I trusted it. I was at a point in my life where I just leaned in and said, okay, I'm okay. And I did. It all worked out where I was able to transition very quickly. And it just, because it all fell into place so naturally, I was able to stop. Most people were betting, I found out behind closed doors, what I was going to do next. Really? Oh, she'll have another company in 6 months. Oh, she'll have another company in 3 months. And I just didn't feel that need once I stopped, and I didn't feel the need to build something again like that. It's not to say, like we talked about, I didn't use creativity in a different way, but I didn't feel the need to go and do yet another company, because I've done several.
Creators are create, but you can create anything, right? So you move from a different context.
I did, and you think about, and you're prompting my memory now to think about, I decided that, okay, I'm going to be creative in a different way. So I decided to get involved in comedy. So I got involved with the Dallas Comedy House at the time, and took improv classes, and then started an improv troupe and storytelling. So I really enjoyed that art of storytelling, and so began to channel the creativity in writing those stories and performing. And then during COVID, of course, Dallas Comedy House unfortunately closed, but I found a couple that I began to nurture and just fell in love with. And we decided to completely reinvent the Dallas comedy scene.
Of course, you have to reinvent it.
I did. And I wanted to bring laughter back to a city and people that were hurting so much during COVID. I thought, what better way to help heal the city and heal is to bring laughter back into people's lives, because it unites us all. Art and laughter, no matter what your socioeconomic status, brings us all together. And so I got really excited about that idea of bringing laughter back to the city and reinventing the Dallas Comedy Club into a new entity. So I redesigned the interior, redesigned the experience, rebranded, and worked to train the new owners on how to run a business, and got it all launched. And then 2 or 3 weeks after we opened and it performed a little bit, I went on a long walk again. I needed it. So I decided to walk through France. So I walked 500 miles through France.
So after so many years of being, do you think, well, let me actually rewind and ask you, do you think that you are consistent? Are you, because I'm telling you that because I'm struggling with that as a creative person, like a little bit of consistency, because you have so many passions and you want to do them all. Have that happened to you, or do you think that you have been consistent during your career until now that you
I think the beauty is I don't have to be anymore. I don't have to
so
be
you force
consistent.
yourself to be consistent?
No, I think it just I allow to work on things I'm passionate about, so that if something sparks my interest versus having to do it,
Right.
to support the agency, to support the payroll, to support all those business aspects, if I find something that really interests me, that has either a greater purpose or that I'm just excited about, that's what I choose to be consistent about or involve my time with. But I don't have to. I have the luxury, and very blessed to know that that's a luxury.
And out of all the things that you had to do, now that you're talking about that way, what are the things that you did, or the projects, or the clients, or the brands that you have that excited you the most?
Oh gosh, I wouldn't have taken on most of them if there wasn't something exciting. But working with Boeing, in their integrated defense systems group primarily, but I got to work with NASA, I got to work with Space Shuttle program, with fabulous integrated battle space, and really creating the narrative for integrated battle space to compete with Lockheed and help them imagine war games and really realize the efficacy of having a net-centric environment, which most people is just being connected by the internet. So super, super, super exciting to work on those kinds of programs. Who'd have thought? I'd be into battle space, and then switching from that to Formula One and working with Talo Hellman to bring Formula to the United States into Austin, Texas, doing their global press conference, helping them really gain a foothold back in the U.S. How exciting. So just a myriad of great, great, great opportunities working with the former president and his wife and the team there to bring the Bush Center alive here in Dallas. Awesome experiences.
That's exciting because it's the adrenaline of creating. Remember the all-nighters that we pull at the agencies?
Sure.
Waking up like at 6 with a blanket for a pitch next morning.
Running to the airport with RFPs to get them on the plane.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
How exciting. And now that we are on that, let's remember how we met and remember everybody. So you had a job post looking for someone for your agency. I was in that crossroads of coming from Fortune 500 companies where I was not feeling that comfortable anymore because it was such a restricted capacity for creativity. And then I made the decision, I'm going to switch to a more nimble, creative digital agency because I wanted to stay in the digital side. And then I went to your agency, which was beautiful because on top of all your talents, you have an amazing talent for decorate. And it was so cozy and so beautiful. So I went in and interviewed with you, and you, first time ever, you hired me on the spot.
I did.
You hired me during the interview. I'm telling you, I think that we have never talked about that, but we connected in a way that is just magical. I saw you coming from where I was coming, and I saw this is what I want to become. Somebody out there is like me, and I felt that in the first 10 minutes. Why you hire me in the spot? You don't do that to people.
Same. I mean, I think I knew that you were a unicorn. And unicorns are hard to find, for sure. But you were, and you had that unique ability to be very passionate, like I am, and to express your thoughts very clearly, but also have that fire inside. I saw it. And you had the interest in looking at things a little bit upside down and being disruptive. And it's hard to find someone who has that critical thinking and strategic thinking that also will flip things on its head, but not be rote in advertising. But actually say, let's look at something totally different. And you definitely had that ability to just say, I'm not your average account executive or average agency person. And I loved that you were so different.
But not everybody can see that. No, you have to be the same tribe, which, right. By the way, you are in my book. You are twice in my book. Once because you really changed the trajectory of my career for good. You show me that there's an amazing world out there that I didn't know. There's people like me out there that I didn't know. I thought that I was weird until I met you and said, you're weird too. And then, and also because it was the first time in my life that I heard about the tribe. Mm-hmm. And you explained to me What do you explain to me?
Well,
What was it?
Yeah, and tribe is really finding people who do think like you, who support you, who inspire you, who really gravitate toward what you have to say, but don't say, "Oh, that can't be done. That can't be done." But that you feel like you're really connected to, and it really can raise you up, but not put you down. But you feel connected in a different way. You just do. When you're part of your tribe, when you find those people, you just have that magical connection where you feel like you can do anything. And that's exciting. It's hard to find. And I think we limit ourselves. And I try to tell my young adult children that, for sure, but other young people that I meet, it's okay to experiment. And you may work somewhere. And if it doesn't feel right, you just haven't found your tribe yet. But don't be discouraged.
Yeah.
Just continue to explore and find your tribe. It's not that if a job doesn't work out, that's not a bad thing. You should be in the process of exploring and experimenting to find the right fit. And it's okay if it's not. It's not a bad thing. You just say next.
Yeah, and you're talking about something very, very, very interesting concept in creativity, which is the embracing failure.
Right.
How you know that intuitively, or is something that you learn as you mature in your career that failure is actually a good thing?
No, we don't learn from our wins, do we?
Right, exactly. Exactly.
We learn the most learning that we do, and the most, I guess, course correction that we do is during our failure. So you have to see it from that. If we don't, put it out there, how do we ever know? So I really believe in no fear and moving forward. But embracing failure, because that's where we learn. That's how we grow.
So you were talking about this latest shift in your life, but at some point when you were very successful in your career, working with these big brands and doing amazing things, do you ever feel lost? That, am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Am I doing, or you were too busy thinking?
I was probably too busy thinking. No, I felt like I was right at home at the time. And when I went to university, I majored in PR and journalism and a minor in art and photography. So I felt like all of those skill sets were in full play. And I was able to have a career that allowed me to design and be creative, but also to write and also be strategic. So all the things that I really had been exposed to through my parental unit and all the creativity that my parents had, I was able to take all of that and leverage it and use it and just naturally be this Jill of all trades.
Mm-hmm. Because you're also someone that have the creative side very, very developed, but you're also extremely strategic. And you major in art?
I majored in PR journalism and minor in art and photography.
What is that combination? Do you think that is something natural and that you got to develop through stories and practice, or it's just how that works, that combination between strategy and creativity?
This is a discussion we have so often. Can you make someone strategic?
Exactly. That was my point. I just rambling.
I don't think you can. I mean, I've tried over the years, but I think the good news is that it takes a village. And it takes people all different strengths and weaknesses to sort of fit together to make a company or organization work and survive. And there are different types of people. I think there are people that are born with a critical thinking and strategic mind that are always curious.
So do you think it's genetic?
Oh, I do. I think that the curious child who's always asking why, almost annoyingly so, why, why, is perhaps going to lean more into that strategic thing because they're curious about the world. They want to know why something works. But you have to have those people that are great executors too, because sometimes the strategist is not a great executor. And so it's trying to find that combo is difficult. Finding someone who's creative and strategic can be a challenge, because a lot of times creativity doesn't have that necessarily that strategic, but when you can find that powerhouse, it can be a great find.
But as a CEO, you were creative, strategic, and an extraordinary executor. Maybe not directly, but you can lead a team to own the moon if you want.
Well,
so how
I think you greatly exaggerate, but I'll take it.
I cannot imagine. I think that your passion, your drive, and that immensely admire. I think that will take you to accomplish anything. I mean, look at you living the life of your dreams. But how do you think that came about when you have all that capacities in
I have to say, my parental unit, for sure. My parents were very creative in their own backgrounds and produced events and produced experiences before experiential marketing was a thing for the state of Mississippi. So I was involved in that from a very early age, where they did the first Mississippi Arts Festival, which was a children's pavilion that they designed that had interactive displays that wasn't even a thing at the time, much like Disney. So moving parts and sound cues as you walk through the greatest stories for literature for children. It was the governor's inaugural ball they did and designed and did all the build out and all the design. So we were involved from a very early age in creativity. We were immersed in it as children. All three of my brothers are classical pianists. We were very involved in the arts. So I think that had a lot to do with instilling that at early on of large-scale projects and creativity.
Are you organized?
Yes. So I have to have things in their place.
So your mind works in an organized way.
It does.
And how you make those connections, creative connections? So
I think sometimes walking certainly helps to make those creative connections. And I think that's why a lot of times I would encourage staff to get outside and walk around the building. When you're stumped, get out, let it go. Go to lunch. Don't, because I sit at my desk, don't you sit at your desk. Get out, walk around the building, walk to the park downtown, really have that freedom to let go for a few minutes, and you'll be so much more productive when you come back inside. You just will. Your brain needs that space to recalibrate. So I think that's how you really make those connections. And I think often by looking at things upside down. So sometimes when you turn them upside down or allow people just to say random things, it may not be that idea that is executed, but it somehow triggers something in your brain or someone else's brain to get to something that's just magical and makes all those connections happen.
Can you elaborate on that upside down? What exactly, how that works?
I think that sometimes you just look at a problem where you turn it on its head to say, we're not going to use the same old solution, but we're going to turn things up down. Look at it backwards. Let's look at it from all these different angles to say, how could we do this if there were no walls, there were no barriers, if budget wasn't an option, if we could just be creative and say, here's how we would try to occupy a tiny sliver of the human mind and what piece do we want to own, how would we go do that? And not let barriers be in place, whether it was the client brief or we know the client's personality, we know they wouldn't like it, but just say, stop. Let's just stop all that noise. And let's just say, what if something magical could happen? How do we just let be and let's just explore? And a lot of times the things that we pitched were things that had never been done before. And the magic did catch on and it did perform and it was an amazing experience. But it's also building that trust with your client to let them receive that and knowing you have clients that would receive something that would be a little bit out of the norm.
Well, do you remember any of those?
Oh, I remember one in particular when I said upside down that reminded me. It was for actually a GES, a huge global event specialist company that does worldwide events, and they were a client of mine as well as Freeman. Loved both of those companies working with them. But GES I've been consulting with them for a few years, and they were having a problem in the marketplace with their positioning. They kind of lost their creativity and their brand cachet among corporate America for being the most creative, marketing-driven company. Freeman had kind of taken over that space, and they were very concerned about how do we get it back. And I said, do you trust me?
I love that.
We're at a point now, I guess we have to. I said, if you trust me, let us come back with some things that are a little bit extraordinary. So I wanted to be and I call that the enemy of the ordinary.
Do you know at that moment what you wanted, but you didn't want to say that?
Not yet.
Okay.
I was close, but I was like, and I think it's, what we want to do at Rocket Rad is be the enemy of the ordinary. And so how do you do that? You kind of look at ways in which to solve that problem in different ways. So for GES, what I did, their exhibitor shows, a huge show every year where all the corporate team comes in to look at exhibit companies and experiential companies, decide perhaps who they partner with or what's the latest trends. And so I decided, okay, what if we turned everything upside down? And I meant literally. So we actually turned the booth upside down and suspended it from the ceiling and turned the entire physical structure upside down to get a new perspective of GES. So when people came to the exhibit, Yeah, it was an upside down exhibit. And so they were able to use technology and use other QR codes, but different technology we leveraged to really see the stories and explore the experience from a different perspective. So really shifted. They ended up winning Best of Show that year. And what was funny about that is one of the executives, when he heard the story and he heard the pitch, that's impossible. We can't do that. That's so out there. And I will say the VP of marketing, she stood up and she said, we're going to do it. Yeah, you stand back where you're actually going to do it. And then at the time, at the exhibitor show, what happens when you win the Best of Show award, they all gather, the team does from the association, and they drum their way to the booth. And he heard those drums coming. And he heard those drums coming, and the naysayer immediately jumped out front to receive the award because he knew they won Best of Show.
That is amazing. How exciting.
It was exciting. It's exciting when people will allow you and embrace that unknown and that fear that hasn't ever been done. I love it when it hasn't ever been done.
Yeah.
Not that it's irresponsible, and it should never be irresponsible, and it has to be somewhere in the field that relates. It's not unknown for the sake of just being unknown, but it's relative to the industry and to the audience, but it's not treating it as an ordinary.
But you need someone from the tribe on the other side to understand that kind of vision and trust.
Trust, yeah. You have to build that trust.
Yeah, and also reading the passion of the other person. Like I say, projects don't just work. It's the person behind the project that makes it work, and you have the passion and the conviction. It never fails, ever. I was
No, we did have solid strategy behind it. I think that's the key thing. I have been in other experiences, even pitching against people, where the creative could have been brilliant, but I call it having legs. The creative had no legs to it. It had nowhere to go. It was just a one-off. Well, it was like a boom, but then there was nothing after that. There's no effect, no lingering effect, no ripple effect after that. And the test to me has always been what? So what? Now what? So we're going through any kind of exploration on a creative execution is to really think strategically about it, because it can be just a what.
Right.
But if there's no so what or why behind it or what's next, it sort of falls on deaf ears, and then it's a lot of money for a one-time bang. But I don't have any kind of consistent communications across all channels, and it just doesn't have life after that. So you want to deliver something also that has a platform for life after that one-off. So if you do disrupt, you have to be careful and know that disruption needs to open the doors to a very strategic campaign to continue to deliver on that disruption. Otherwise, you created noise, and confusion.
And actually, the most valuable creative ideas are those that use the different part of the brain. How the brain is designed to do, it retrieves information from what you know, the strategy, the information that you have from the brand, the client. It ties with, or it connects with what you're when to walk and start daydreaming and imagine what it could be is connected back to the knowledge. So all those connections is what really is what we call, science and art.
Right.
It's the science and art. I have completely forgot about this, but you just remind me that it was you who kind of unlocked in me that love for technology. I completely forgot. And now I remember you were talking, and I'm remembering sitting there in Rocket Red. And maybe because I was listening to you talking about how marketing technology can really power things. And I started, I never told you that, but I started talking to any vendor who called me to pitch me anything. I will listen. And I realized that nobody knows how the technology is advancing more than the people that is involved in those companies. So since then, it was 2010 until now, those are my most precious conversations, is talking to the vendors that a lot of marketers avoid.
Right.
Those are priceless. But it was you. I forgot. I mean, I just didn't
for a small group, we were ahead of the curve on technology. And I think the agility of being a small agency, it gives you that freedom. And so a smaller group,
Right.
you're able to be more agile and explore things at a quicker rate. We don't have layers and layers of corporate to have to worry about to get approvals or get funding from, but we can make those decisions to really invest in technology or invest in something that is an idea that no one else has yet explored. And so we were definitely ahead of the curve in a lot of leveraging technology and realizing that it was going to be the future, no doubt about that, of where things are headed.
So I remember how I started, but how you started. When did you realize the power of technology to really, really power marketing?
That's a tough one. I think that we always try to stay on that cutting edge. I think working with integrated space programs with Boeing and understanding the value and understanding the net-centric environment and how they're also going after civil, but the power of the internet and where it was headed, and working with AMD, working with all these other clients in technology, you saw where the power was heading. And you saw that people were moving more and more to their handheld device and moving more and more to devices that could interconnect. And just being on that cutting edge, always looking for where they were headed, and they were leapfrogging with their forward thinking and knowing that the agencies had to catch up. So how do you catch up and make sure that you're meeting the consumer where they are, and whether it's B2B or B2C, but where are they? Where do they live? And making sure that you can communicate with them on the device that they're on.
Now, I have seen you design too. You do graphic design. I never saw you design, but I knew you design. So you design, you build websites, you write a copy, you write a strategy, you can pitch it, you can execute it.
Also, my copy always fit my layout. It's always the good news.
And in an amazing, like, in hours. So your capacity, again, your creative capacity is amazing. How do you think, like, looking at how is the industry today, a marketer today, a CMO that has a team doing stuff, you had a team doing a lot of the stuff for you, but you learn how to do each of those things. You can build a website in hours. You can write a manuscript in hours. How do you think that marketing is changing, and why everyone should learn all those skills, even when you have people?
You know, I think it's always that it's tough to inspect what you expect if you don't understand it. So I don't think you can have a truly in-depth knowledge of all the technologies today, because that is a full-time job. But to have a cursory knowledge and understanding is critical, because how do you set KPIs or ROIs? How do you set those expectations if you don't really know what your team is doing? And you can't really look to see, is that valid? You know, is that a good practice or best practice? You can't possibly know it all, because it's become the changes happen every day now with algorithms and the way in which technology is evolving so quickly, especially with AI, it's evolving even faster. But it's understanding how to leverage those tools now and understanding the basic functionality of them as a CMO or someone as even a CEO to appreciate the value of that, because everything now is marketing dependent and marketing led. For a while, it's operations led, sales led, but truly most companies now are marketing led and marketing dependent. So it's to me, it's imperative that CEOs, all the C-suite, begin to have a greater understanding and appreciation of the role marketing now can play and the value that marketing brings to the table.
What do you think that made that difference, that right now marketing is integrated in all the capacities versus before that it was more an isolated practice?
Internet. Yeah, being able to have access globally. You know, so this global platform that we have now that we're able to communicate on worldwide has changed everything. So, and I think COVID, the good news about COVID, if there is any, was that it did usher in people being reliant on technology in their handheld device. And so the adaptation rate went up incredibly during that time frame for QR codes, for leveraging technology, for understanding how to use it. So we've actually gained a greater demographic with an older generation now that is also leveraging technology. So for healthcare, for seniors, they now know how to use their handheld device, more dependent. But I think that all happened because of a disaster in our culture, but that helped evolve that technology faster.
And we have had conversations about technology, so you're pretty up to date. How do you stay up to date walking while you walk the world?
I try not to stay too up to date because then I'll get down a rabbit hole. But fortunately, my son has an AI company that's focused primarily on teaching corporations how to leverage AI and how to be smart and intelligent about it to really build significant significant results and meaningful results, not just generate leads, but generate meaningful leads and presence and awareness on the web in particular. So staying up to date, through him and through another daughter who's got a marketing career as well, they kind of keep me posted on their latest challenges that they have. But it's funny because it all comes back to strategy. And so the conversations that we have these are arrows in our quiver. So all these digital and marketing tools that we have are simply arrows in our quiver. So it's how we use the arrows that's important, because there's so many out there that you can get distracted with pulling all the arrows out. But if you're going to pull one, how am I using it? Am I on target? Is it the right arrow to pull at this time? But really understanding how to leverage those. So I constantly pull them back to strategy, because in lieu of strategy, any arrow will do.
That's what you call it, arrows. I call it tools in a toolbox. I see the marketing ecosystem like a toolbox. Definitely, I think that I learned a lot from you, and not only on the digital technology side, but again, you showed me there's people out there that is like me and kind of broke the isolation where I thought I'm different from anybody else with this. To weird people here,
right?
Okay, and I love it, and I love talking to you, Gayden. It's sort of a little bit sad for me that the world is going to miss all that, but I'm so happy for you and the dream life that you are building for you, and wish you the best. But what is next for you in your amazing new place and all the passion that you have for creation?
I think I'm at a season now where I can let things unfold more. So I think it's an unfolding time to know exactly how can I leverage and not squander the experiences that I've had, but not squander them while I'm here on this earth. So how can I give back? How can I share the stories so they're meaningful to someone else? I think we all have an important story, and we all have a story to tell. And I want to encourage others to share their story, and just let that evolve naturally, and let creation around me inspire me, and really kind of lean into that to know exactly how I'm supposed to be leveraging this time I have left on this earth.
Are you as passionate as your next endeavors as you were on the marketing?
I don't think you can ever take the passion of anybody. If they've got the fire, it just goes in a different direction, but the passion is still there.
It's exciting because you can see, Gayden, I can see through the photos when you walk in, you have awe, which is also amazing for creativity. You see something during your walks, and you can see the awe and the excitement and the curiosity and the way you tell the story. So it's just so great to know that you keep that. It's part of you. It doesn't give you, a project doesn't give you that, a job doesn't give you that. You give that to a project and a job.
Curious. Stay curious. Be curious about the world. Be curious about others. Be interested. Be there. Be present. Be curious. If you stay curious, to me, you stay alive. Just stay curious.
I love that. And with that, what a better phrase to close this. And I'm so glad that you came. I didn't even know that you were moving in 2 months, so I'm so glad that I invited you before. And thank you so much, Gayden. I wish you the very best, and stay in touch. I'm going to visit you there.
Absolutely.
I take that. And to all of you, thank you so much. I know you have a lot of great content in the internet, so I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this. And to Movida Hispana, thank you so much for producing this episode and all the other episodes of Pensamiento Crítico, Critical Thinking.